What's going on, Detroit sports fans everywhere? We back, Motor City Sports Talk. Got a special article coming today, and with not so good news. First off, Matt Millen needs a heart transplant. So my prayers go out to Matt Millen, I think former Raider great, and former Lions GM, and Detroit Free Press got an article with him. He's going back, talking about all his failures as, his tenure with the Lions, man. And when I first read the article, I skipped over the part about his heart transplant. I'm like, why is he coming out with this article now about how sorry he was and messing up the Detroit Lions? Definitely want to pray for him. And if, hopefully he gets this heart transplant, because nobody deserves to, go out that way, like him. But he's selling Peter King and Sports Illustrated writer, the great Peter King. I really like him a lot. Several different things, man. Saying that how he was an idiot. He was a real idiot in making some of these draft decisions. And one of them that was pointed out was the fact that he drafted Mike Williams, man. I think it was Mike Williams who he had drafted, okay, fellas. And I'm going to quote him. He said, "The one that killed me was Mike Williams." He said that was just so stupid, Pete. It's like my brain fell off my head. Why would I do that? And to further that frustration, I listened to my group. They thought if they got Mike Williams and paired him with Roy Jones, that in the red zone we can do all these things. And I was like, okay, do you realize at the time, when we were just about ready to pick, I had DeMarcus Ware on the phone, and I said, all right, take Mike Williams. My son was in the draft room, and he punched me, and I was a dope. So just something like that, like he delegated, and trusted his team when, if he would have went with his first mind, and he was a great, or at least a good defensive player, wasn't my time, we was always wondering, why is this guy always taking all these offensive guys? Roy Williams, Mike Williams, Charles Rogers, was he going to get into? I mean, he was just making boneheaded decisions in the draft. And to know that he delegated to his team, and his team at the time included Martin Mayhew and Tom LeWine, who basically told Mr. Ford that, that was Matt Millen's mistake. It was Matt Millen's mistake. We told him never to do that. But if he's telling the truth, he delegated to those exact guys. And I don't know if they was part of the group that told him to take Mike Williams over to DeMarcus Ware, but looking back at it, that was the stupid move. That was the ultimate whoop-de-bland. And he says, he said he took Charles Rogers because he was a local kid, and I'm going to quote this. Now I know what really happens when you build a team, Matt Millen said. It's so imperfect. There's so many things that just happen that you stumble into, and sometimes it works out the way you plan it, and often because it's often not because it's people's business. That's what it is like. That's what it is, excuse me. Like with Charles Rogers, I worked him out. I met with Charles. Charles wasn't a strong person. I knew that. I miscalculated all the people that will latch on to him, especially being close to home. He was from Saginaw, and that was the real problem. My choice then was to take him or the kid from Miami, Andre Johnson. The only reason that I didn't take Andre Johnson was I thought this kid would be good for the franchise, a hometown kid. He had better speed, but Andre was a physical guy. He ignored his first mind. He knew, if he's telling the truth, the pros and cons. And if you know anything about the metro area and about kids that's from Saginaw, Metro Detroit, Muskegon, most inner cities like that, that being close to home is an issue. I think I referred to this on the channel before. When Chris Webber, I think he was leaving Washington, I believe it was, he had an option to go to the Pistons or go to the Sacramento Kings. His father made him go to the Sacramento because he said at the time for him, being in Detroit would have been too much of a distraction. He would have gotten too much trouble. Same thing with Charles Rogers. Matt Millen, you got to know these things. You run the franchise and you not knowing these things. He said, like he said at the beginning, I didn't mention it, he was way in and over his head with this. He didn't know what he was doing. And that's just the Lions, man. Especially back then. Hiring the guy who was head in over his head, who didn't know how to run a franchise, who ignored all the signs, didn't go with his first mind, and it sounds like the story of my life. When I don't go with my first mind, it's always an epic mistake, and I want to say, damn, I should have went with my first mind. And I think Matt Millen had a lot of these mistakes. He was a good football guy, good football player. You knew Charles Rogers wasn't a strong character, man. You knew you was going to have him close to home. You thought you was trying to sell the fan base on a hometown kid coming here to sell tickets. That's the issue. You got to build the football team. You build a good football team, the fan base will come. Charles Rogers, you knew he wasn't a strong person. Andre Johnson, strong character guy, physical receiver. You could have had Andre Johnson and Calvin Johnson. You know, never know. But, hey, he went for speed. He was from the Oakland Raiders organization. They held athletic ability and speed over every attribute imaginable. So, that was a mistake, but he acknowledged that he was in over his head, man. He did acknowledge that, man. He ripped himself in this article. You know, he definitely ran this franchise into the ground, man. 0-16, man. Yeah. And, you know, his teams were 31-81, a .277 winning percentage while he was employed with the Lions started of the Detroit 0-16 season in 2008. And, like I said, man, you know, he didn't go with his first mind. I thought it was an interesting article to read. It was very short. This could be a book, the way how many dumb, boneheaded decisions he made, and personnel-wise. And obviously, everybody's not qualified to be a GM. He's basically a fan, you know, a guy that seemed to have no real control and no real idea and direction in what he wanted to do. That's exactly what this is. He had no real direction on how to run this team. He didn't have a game plan or blueprint going in or anything of that nature. And his team around him was dog shit. He listened to him at the last minute. You had DeMarcus Ware on the phone. Oh, you got to take Mike Williams, man. Charles Rogers, he knew he wasn't a good person. He knew he had, you know, bad quality traits. You're going to give somebody with bad quality traits all this money. What happened? 1 + 1 = 2, Matt Millen. You know, but like I said, man, at least he's, you know, man enough to, you know, 10, 15 years later to own up to his mistakes, man. You know, it was hard watching Lions back then, man. I didn't stay in Detroit for the 0-16 season. I was in my freshman year of college out of state. But I came home for like a win, like there was some, you know, exams was over. I came home and that was 0-15 and they was taking on the Packers and it looked like we was going to have a chance, but not really. We got dogged out in that game, man. That was a hard time for Detroit, man. We give all our energy into the Lions, man. They're the most popular team right now. Still, to me, they've always been the most popular team unless somebody was winning the championship, the Red Wings, the Pistons. Always been a popular team, man. And in the NFL, because there's no slack, man. They don't want to see us win. They don't want us to do positive. And we're a franchise in a city who deserves a championship from the Detroit Lions, man. Really, really we do. And Matt Millen is only part of a story that's going to have his epic downfall, as every movie and story does. They have the epic downfall, the climax, in the end. And hopefully towards, you know, some point in the near future or towards the end of human life, whatever it may be, the Lions can win a championship, man. I definitely would go. I would scrape tooth and nail, dollar and dime to go to the Super Bowl, and I would just be in love, and it would be one of the greatest days of my life. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, let this be a lesson. Hopefully the Pistons don't bring a GM that's something like Matt Millen in that I don't have no direction or no plan. Motor City